everyone, I'm making this video in commemoration of this year's World Hypertension Day celebration, 17th of May 2021, as well as answering the question, is hypertension curable? Is still your favorite digital lady pharmacist, Julia Chinello from Pharmarbiter. Please stay all through this video with us, as it would work well at the end. So the theme of this year's World Hypertension Day celebration is measure your blood pressure accurately, control it, live longer. Technically, what this implies is that if you're hypertensive and is not well managed or controlled, you would not live long. So this year's theme has got a lot of mouth mumbling, a lot of misconceptions and hearsay. I would be going through some of these hearsay that I've had recently with you, but I urge you not to laugh it away. Don't laugh too hard that you miss the real message. So the very first hearsay that I will be reading out today is, some people would be like, the big farmers at it again. So they think that if we do not use their equipment, such as the sphygmometer, to measure our blood pressure, and if peradventure is high, take the pills, that we would not live long. How true is this? And the second misconception that I've come across recently is, they simply want us to be dependent on their medication. Why they smile to the bank? And the third hearsay I would be reading out today is, the orthodox medicine does, and the entire medical practitioners, thus the doctors, pharmacists, nurses, medical laboratory scientists, and other members of the team, they want to remain relevant, employed, so the dismissal of cure for hypertension. On this note, permit me to say, if you know anyone who knows who has been cured of high blood pressure or who cures hypertension, please, we would appreciate if you could get the person to keep in touch, because if we can actually cure hypertension, we don't need to just manage it. We want the best for people out there. Please, if you have information or you can help us get in touch with these claims of being cured, or claims of being able to manage it, it would be appreciated. And the fourth misconception I've had recently is, there is a herbal remedy. All you need to do is to get the bottle, give it a good shake, take it once, 3 times a day, or whatever that is prescribed for 7 days, and that's it. You are cured from hypertension for lifetime. You don't need any orthodox medication. How true is that? And the fifth that I've had recently is, my pastor, my clergy in my church will pray hypertension away. You can be cured of hypertension through praying, through fasting, or through something. Just come to my church. It is possible. If you know anywhere where hypertension, or any church where it can be cured, also please, we would appreciate keeping in touch. And the sixth, but not the least, of what I've had recently is, if you're given into taking those hypertensive medications, it would cause you side effects, and you would develop all the comorbid diseases associated with hypertension by taking the medication. Example, metabolic syndrome, diabetes mellitus, stroke, congestive heart failure, dyslipidemia, and a whole list of other diseases that are associated. But it might burst your bubbles that the reverse is actually the case. That is when you are not compliant, when you are scammed or not adherent to your prescribed medication, is when you have complications. And any of this or some of these above listed medical condition would spring up. So if you would like to know the real fact, the real deal of what happens when you are not adherent with your antihypertensive medication, or when you don't want to admit that they even exist, in our next episode we would be discussing in details what happens when you are not compliant with your prescribed medications. So another hearsay that I've had recently is just eat right, exercise, stay stress-free. Do not fall into these antics of the big pharmas and the orthodox medicine practitioners, as you would spend the rest of your life buying their medications, thus funding their flamboyant lifestyles while they live big. How true is this assumption? And the last but not the least that I've had recently is wish hypertension away. In fact, do not admit that it exists. Take it off your head. It's just a made up story. They go as far as referring to century ago that the life expectancy used to be high compared to this 21st century, with a lot of research, innovations that is meant to make life easier, but the life expectancy recently is lower than what it used to be. So they use this to take you off from complying from your medication, and they would go as far as going by the saying that last something would kill a man. So as this here says carries on, I could read a whole lot of them. In fact, I could make a novel out of it. But all I've got to say in all this is that they are fallacy, 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 fallacy. I would roll out, like I have said earlier on, what actually happens, the real deal, the facts of you not complying with your antihypertensive medication. So I would like to wrap this episode up by explaining or defining what hypertension or what it means to be hypertensive. In this episode, I would like to define it to you and go through the stages with you, and in what stage, what you should do at different stage, and when when antihypertensive medication use is required. So in a layman term, I would say that for you to be considered hypertensive, what it means is that the force of the blood flow against your arteries is high at about, it should be greater than 140 millimeter mercury and 90 millimeter mercury. That's for systolic and diastolic respectively. So to answer this question, hypertension is not curable. It is a chronic illness that can't be managed, that can't be controlled with antihypertensive medication alongside lifestyle modification. That is your diet, exercise, and stress. The only type of hypertension that can resolve, that is reversible, is the hypertension around pregnancy. That's the pre-eclampsia, postpartum, and gestational hypertension, whatever name you choose to call it. Tentatively, depending on factors such as stress, emotional recovery, it got resolved about 12 weeks after delivery. So that's the only exemption of hypertension that can't resolve or that can't be cured, and it happens if hypertension is well managed in pregnancy, preventing complications. Because if it is not well managed and it gets complicated, I cannot guarantee it being reversible. Of course, most of us that have gone through pre-eclampsia knows that it is actually life-threatening. Okay, I would proceed to the stages of hypertension now, and that would be using JNC classification. The first stage is considered normal, and this is the range. No treatment is required, just carry on with what you are doing. Practice good exercise, stay off from stress, and eat right. Just do what is right that you are doing, and no medication is required. And that will go to the second one, which is termed prehypertension, and this is the range for diastolic and systolic respectively. And in this stage, no medication, no antihypertensive is required, but it is highly recommended that you take it more seriously. You take your lifestyle modification more seriously, your diet, your exercise, and your stress management. You're just at the borderline, and if nothing is done, you would enter stage 1. And the next classification is stage 1 classification. This is the ranges, and in this stage, drug management, antihypertensive management is required alongside lifestyle modification. And the last stage we'll be talking about today is the second stage, and in this stage, alongside your lifestyle modification, 2 or 3 classes of the 5 medications that are used for the management of hypertension would be required. Thank you for staying all the way to the end with me. Let me know of what you think, and if you know anyone, just as they have claimed, that have been cured of hypertension, please, we would appreciate their getting in touch. Or if you know anyone who cures, we would appreciate their getting in touch as well. So in our next episode, we would be talking about what happens if you are not taking your medications. That's the complications of non-compliance and adherence of antihypertensive medications. Stay safe, and just know it that hypertension is not curable, is a chronic disease that is just a lifetime or a lifelong one, but it can be managed, controlled, and you will just live your life as normal, as usual, like every other normal person out there. Thank you so much, and do not forget to subscribe before going away. We will see you by this time next week, Wednesday.